What a job Ruben Amorim has on his hands. 3 days after conceding twice from corners at Arsenal, the game against Nottingham Forest in front of the Stretford end was only 88 seconds old when Nottingham Forest score from a corner. Elliot Anderson whips it in, Milenkovic nods it in, 1-0 Nottingham Forest, and Manchester United have learned nothing in the past 3 days. It really was poxy, so poor, and it was the 7th goal that Manchester United have conceded from corners in the Premier League this season. That is the worst record that there is, joint with Wolves, joint with Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Manchester United, it is now fair to say, are in total and utter disarray. And generally speaking, I enjoy when Manchester United lose games of football. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Onana dive out the way of Morgan Gibbs-White's goal, but there is a slight issue that is interrupting my enjoyment of what is going on at Manchester United. I never, ever relish magnificent football clubs being destroyed at boardroom level. I love watching it go wrong on the pitch, and this is applicable to any football team. I desperately want Tottenham to go wrong. I desperately want Arsenal to go wrong. I desperately want Manchester United to go wrong, but not at boardroom level. It's so awful to witness what is going on at Manchester United. And I think that when we talk about what's gone wrong, when we talk about what happened against Nottingham Forest, I think that the focus actually has to be on Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos Knights. Of course, we have to discuss what Ruben Amorim did wrong. Subbing Bruno Fernandes, for example, we will get into that. Of course, we need to talk about Diego Dallo. Is he good enough to play for Manchester United anymore? I don't think he is. And there are many things that we can get into to actually explore what's going wrong for Manchester United on the pitch. But what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing, it's so bad. And against Nottingham Forest, the Manchester United fans were loudly singing about decisions made by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. In the Manchester United fanzine, it's a well-established, iconic fanzine. It's called United We Stand. It really is a brilliant read. If you ever go to a game at Old Trafford, as a home fan or an away fan, it really is worth a couple of quid. It's well worth your time. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, to his credit, did an interview with the United We Stand lads. Do you know what he referred to Manchester United as in that interview? He referred to Manchester United, the great Manchester United, the British institution that is Manchester United, as mediocre. Which, on some level, is fine, but allow me to just finish the point. He referred to Manchester United as mediocre, and then he puts prices up. Then he aborts all concessions. So if you are a child, if you're 5 years old, it will cost you £66 to go and watch Manchester United play. If you are an OAP, if you are 85 years old, and you have perhaps committed your life, dedicated your time and your money for a lifetime to go and watch Manchester United, there is no longer a concession available for you. So yes, we have to talk about Onana, Maguire, Dallo. But part of the reason that Manchester United are in such disarray is the lack of guidance and intelligent decision-making from Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his team, the Ineos Knights. I mean, it's time, actually, to stop blaming Glazer and focus on what the Knights themselves have got wrong. So many decisions. And you can trace it right back. Trace it right back to Erik ten Hag. They clearly had doubts about Erik ten Hag. They were clearly unsure that Erik ten Hag was the right man to lead Manchester United for the long haul. So what did they do? They didn't sack him. They were cowardly. But they interviewed loads of other managers, including the likes of Thomas Tuchel and Thomas Frank. Football. It's football. Things leak. There is always a leak. So naive from Ineos to not think that the news that they had met Thomas Tuchel, for example, was going to be out. And once that news is out, it totally undermines Erik ten Hag. The board behaved like fans. The board were swayed by the emotion of beating Manchester City in a cup final, so they persevered with a manager that they knew was inept. Not only that, but they gave him 200 million quid to spend. That is part of the reason that it's going so wrong for Manchester United now. And that is a decision made not by Glazer. You know, Glazer wrung that club ragged. It was a disgrace to the club. He should have never had his hands on it. But let's focus on the here and now. The reason why there are some abject players in this Manchester United squad is because Erik ten Hag bought them. Erik ten Hag bought them because Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his team gave ten Hag a stay of execution and a further 200 million quid. That is what happened. It really is so poor. And to refer to Manchester United as mediocre, and, you know, for a moment, let's just focus on the chronology. It isn't the offence. Are Manchester United a mediocre football team? Are they sitting in a mediocre position in the Premier League table? Absolutely. All of the above is true. But if they are therefore mediocre, and that means the product, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a venture capitalist, a businessman, he will see it as a product, and he will see the fans not as fans, but as consumers or customers. If it's a mediocre product, why are you charging your customer through the nose? How do those two things marry up? And if you don't think that the disharmony and disengagement on the Stretford end is having a direct result on the performance of Manchester United, the football team, you are insane. We have clear, proven evidence that when the Manchester United board aren't totally on board with what's going on at the club, the support isn't totally on board with what's going on at the club, it will have a detrimental impact on the team. They aren't singing in the Stretford end, encouraging their team. They're singing about £66 prices. They aren't singing, trying to encourage the players on the pitch. They are singing about Malcolm Glazer and Sir Jim Ratcliffe being peas in a pod. They are not singing to try and encourage their team, which they do diligently, by the way. But they have a bigger fight to fight. They're fighting for the survival of their club in the way that they know it. And they're therefore singing about £66 tickets. We have a proven case study of how disharmony in a stadium has a result on the pitch. 10 years ago, Hicks and Gillette at Liverpool, they put prices up to £77. Do you remember? 77 quid. It's really, really interesting example. They put the price up to 77 quid. Liverpool, at the time, they were winning a game of football. They were winning 2-0. The Spirit of Shankly group staged a walkout on the 77th minute. I'd say at least 60% of the stadium left. The game finished 2-2. Fans in the stadium, fans broken, fans not happy, impact on the football team. It clearly happens. So the reason that Ratcliffe is putting the prices up isn't because the product is so good. He's admitted it's mediocre. It's greed. And I think it's now fair to say that from what we've seen so far, so Jim Ratcliffe is Joel Glazer in sheep's clothing. That is what's happening. £66, you're taking the mick. Sing the Stretford end. What they're not doing is singing their usual attack, 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 and we're the pride of all Europe and whatever else, which will encourage and enhance the team. They're singing £66, you are taking the mick. And they're completely correct in doing so. That's the important thing to remember. When I'm saying this, Manchester United with that banner, £66, your debt, not ours. They're right. This £66 increase doesn't impact them. It has absolutely no impact on the amount of money that the Glazer, that the Ineos own. It really doesn't. It's so insignificant. So, Ruben Amorim really does have his work cut out. And when you look at the players that he's working with, it's not good. He's told his players that they will only be successful if they run like mad dogs. And I agree with that. I agree with that principle. Run yourself into the ground. Run yourself ragged. Give everything that you've got for Manchester United. Leave everything on the pitch. That badge upon your chest. Do it. Run like mad dogs. That was a quote from Ruben Amorim. Didn't happen. Quite simply didn't happen. And look at what he's had to put up with. You've got dodgy goalkeepers. Dodgy. So dodgy. And I know that Onana's had a good season. I think you could easily argue that Onana's been Manchester United's standout performer this season. But dodgy. So unacceptably dodgy. And then you've got the situation where it feels like it's basically strangers on the pitch. There's no cohesion. There's no harmony. There's no understanding. It's a group of strangers playing one another into trouble. There is absolutely no unity. It was so sloppy from Manchester United from start to finish. Think about them on set pieces, defending set pieces every single time. Nottingham Forest took a corner. Manchester, you could see the panic in their eyes. It was like somebody had dropped a load of snakes on a sleeping toddler. And panic and sheer total discombobulation. It was ridiculous, like truly ridiculous. And then I guess we have to have a conversation about Ruben Amorim's decision-making himself. If you are looking for a goal, if you are looking for an assist, this isn't about how good do you think Manchester United are. This isn't even about how good do you think Bruno Fernandes is, because whilst I rate Bruno Fernandes highly, I appreciate that he is quite a divisive figure. Some don't seem to rate him. Some Manchester United fans don't seem to rate him. But even if you don't like him as captain, even if you don't think he's a particularly good player, which baffles me, but even if you don't, you must concede this. Manchester United's most likely outlet for a goal, for a moment of magic, for an assist, for a key pass, is Bruno Fernandes. Should it be that way? Isn't the question. Should Manchester United have other players? Not the question. What player is most likely to get Manchester United back in the game? Bruno Fernandes. He scored the goal, in fact, to get them back in the game. Great goal as well. Off the back of that little touch from Dalot, pinged it in. You could see how much it meant to him. He was subbed. Surely, when you are looking for a goal, and look, I'm not having a go at Amorim here. I think it's, on some level, quite brave from him. And I think that the message that it sends, that nobody is above possible substitution, is also quite a good message. But I just don't think that you can take him off when you desperately need a goal. Yeah, if you're Nuno Espirito Santo in that situation, who's a genius, by the way. If you're Nuno Espirito Santo in that situation, if you are any of the Nottingham Forest players, you are over the moon to see Bruno Fernandes go off. And by that logic alone, surely he should stay on. But there are just so many players in this Manchester United squad that are not good enough. Like, genuinely so many. I mean, I think you could do it the other way and go, how many are actually good enough? 3 or 4? Maino, Fernandes. I mean, it's so limited, isn't it? It's so limited. And then there's so many players who are like woeful. Dalot. Oh my God. Maguire, he's just so average. It really is. And, Onana, that mistake, it kind of takes us back to his torrid first 6 months at Old Trafford, doesn't it? He was at fault for basically every goal. The corner comes in, first one, maybe not his, but maybe. I mean, the second one was a joke, an absolute joke. I heard Gibbs White talking about it. He was very nice about Onana, kindly. But he basically said, I had no intention of that ball going in the back of the net. I had no expectation that ball was going to end up in the back of the net. And then the third one, Onana gets caught under it, Wood heads it back where it came from, and then it's just a complete mix-up. Like a total and utter embarrassing mix-up. Like, why does Lisandro Martinez not clear that off the line? They were all over the place, United. Totally disorganised, totally chaotic, totally vulnerable, totally fragile, and there is so much for Amorim to do. For the record, I think Amorim's a good appointment. I think it's a progressive, exciting appointment. And Ruben Amorim, from Ineos' perspective, is the perfect appointment. They've done the right thing. They have gone out and they have appointed a European supercoach. So they've done so far so good on that. And Ruben Amorim so far so good on his front as well, I guess. There's a long way to go. But it's the biggest job in the world, isn't it? Not only because of the club and what it represents, but the hand that you're dealt. You're dealt 7 deuce off suit and you're told to win the World Series. It's ridiculous. Anyway, there we have it. They're my thoughts on Manchester United at the moment. Please do me a favour. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear them. And if you've really enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it massively if you could give it a like. And please do click subscribe. Hugely helps me out if you would be so kind. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a wonderful day. In a bit.